Hello again, everyone, and welcome to another edition of This Week in the World of Football. This is episode number 258 for August 23rd, 2022. I'm your host, Randy Snow. On today's show, we now know how many games Deshaun Watson will miss this season, and Adam and I recount our experience of going to Toronto last weekend for a CFL game. In this week's history lesson, we have a rundown of some of the greatest nicknames in football history. But I'm not here by myself. Across the table from me, as always, is my son, Adam.
Greatest player nicknames,
Yes,
so you know.
Player nicknames.
Player nicknames. I'm excited to discuss that. And then, welcome to Season 6, everybody.
Yeah.
I guess this will be the start of our 6th year doing this crap.
Yep.
And I haven't missed a single episode.
Oh, jeez.
Starting the season off strong. And, boy, oh boy, I don't want to have to... this story we're going to recount about our trip to Toronto. Do we have to?
Yes,
Oh.
it's important.
Oh, boy.
It's a sad but true story about what happened to us.
Sad but not so groovy love story.
Yeah, something like that. We come to you each week from the World of Football Man Cave, located right here in the center of the football world, Kalamazoo, Michigan. We're here to promote the game of football in all its many forms, past, present, and future. Our goal is to educate and inform our listeners with the glorious buffet that is the world of football, all this while keeping a close eye on the rich history of the game. Thanks for checking out our podcast. We'd love to get your feedback on one of our many platforms: Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and YouTube, where we post the entire audio portion of this show, as well as other selected videos. So let's begin today's show with Adam and the World of Football scoreboard.
That's right. It was Week 11 in the Canadian Football League, and we start with... a doubleheader on Friday night, which the first game saw the Edmonton Elks get a victory over the Ottawa Redblacks 30-12.
Yeah, good for them.
Ottawa was up 12-9 going into the half, but the Redblacks were shut out in the second half, while Edmonton scored 21 unanswered points. Elks quarterback Taylor Cornelius completed 16 passes for 208 yards and 2 touchdowns in the game. He also ran 5 times for another 47 yards. Quarterback for Ottawa, Caleb Evans, he completed 10 passes for 111 yards. He also ran the ball 9 times for 82 yards and a touchdown. So
Yeah, it's kind of a tale of two halves in that game.
Pretty much. But hey, good for Edmonton. We've been saying, they've been having a rough stretch there for a minute, and getting a victory over Ottawa is got to be a good feeling.
But Ottawa's still only got one win on the season.
Yeah,
so
they're the two basement dwellers right now.
Both teams needed a win, but it was Edmonton that came out with the win this week.
Yeah. All right, and then the second of the doubleheader on Friday saw the British Columbia Lions get out on top of the Saskatchewan Roughriders 28-10. British Columbia was up 21-10 going into the half and just scored one touchdown in the game. Scored one more touchdown in the game while shutting out Saskatchewan in the second half. But the big story from this game was an ankle injury to one of our favorite quarterbacks now, Nathan Rourke of British Columbia, in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
He will have surgery on it and could return later this season. That's to be determined. But before leaving the game, Rourke completed 22 passes for 375 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also ran 3 times for another 63 yards. Also for British Columbia, wide receiver Lucky Whitehead, love saying his name, had 9 catches for 136 yards, including a 90-yard touchdown catch and run. His teammate, wide receiver Dominique Rhymes, added 6 catches for 127 yards, so a good day for that receiving corps. On the other side of the ball, Saskatchewan quarterback Cody Fajardo completed just 8 passes for 41 yards and 2 interceptions. He was eventually replaced by quarterback Mason Fine, who completed 16 passes for 210 yards and a touchdown. And according to Randy, these were the best highlights of the week.
Yeah, so many close plays. A defender knocking the ball away from a receiver at the last second, and fumbles, interceptions. Just great plays all around on both teams.
And now all eyes in British Columbia will turn to quarterback Michael O'Connor, a third-year CFL player out of the University of British Columbia, who will get the start next week for the Lions.
Yeah, we have had so much fun watching Nathan Rourke this year. He's just been phenomenal.
It's been incredible.
What was it? 488 yards last week, 375 yards this week, and he didn't even finish the game.
Yep.
He ran 3 times for 60-some yards. I mean, this kid is just incredible. He was setting the league on fire, and now all of a sudden...
Pretty much a league MVP kind of
Yeah. I mean, you expected them to be right there knocking on the Grey Cup's door at the end of the season, but now... it's hard to say. I mean, initially they said that they were hoping that Rourke would be back by the end of the season, but I've read other things where people are saying, yeah, he's not coming back this year.
You're 11 weeks into your season.
Yeah.
An ankle injury is a delicate thing to navigate. even if you got 7-8 weeks of rehab there and you got back, I mean, you might get back in time for the playoffs, or you could just miss it by a week.
You don't want to rush him back. You don't want to screw things up for next year. This year's kind of looks like it might be over for British Columbia, but
I wouldn't go that far.
His health, well, you never know how this backup guy is gonna.
We'll see how O'Connor does. So,
yeah. But I mean, they've got weapons on that team. He's a good quarterback, but he's got some pretty darn good receivers too, and Lucky Whitehead, he's a good kick returner too, as well as a wide receiver. So, yeah, well, it'd be interesting to see how British Columbia does now the rest of the season.
We'll see. They still got that defense. They still got all those other weapons. It's just the quarterback.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. He was phenomenal.
All right, now moving on. On Saturday, we had another doubleheader, starting off with Montreal defeating the Hamilton Tiger Cats in a very close game, 29-28. This was a back-and-forth game that was tied 11-11 going into halftime, but in the end, it was a 48-yard field goal by David Cote that won the game for Montreal with no time left on the clock.
Yeah.
Also for Montreal, quarterback Trevor Harris completed 24 passes for 382 yards and 3 touchdowns, while wide receiver Eugene Lewis caught 7 passes for 99 yards and a touchdown. On the Hamilton side, though, Matt Schiltz, quarterback over there, completed 27 passes for 303 yards and 2 touchdowns, while wide receiver Tim White caught 11 passes for 145 yards and 2 touchdowns. Another set of decent highlights this week from the CFL.
The second best of the week. I mean, it comes down to a last-second field goal with no time on the clock. You win by 1 point. That's some pretty good highlights. And it was very close all game long. They'd score, we'd score. They'd score, we'd score. That sort of back-and-forth game. So it was a lot of fun to watch those highlights, and a really good game and an exciting ending to it.
Yep. All right, and then moving on to the final game of the week, which saw the Calgary Stampeders defeat the Toronto Argonauts 22-19. Then on bye this week, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, who will be hosting the Calgary Stampeders next week. What?
You don't even want to read any of the highlights from this game, do you?
Why?
We'll get into that, but people.
Do I have to talk about the highlights?
I can read these if you want.
Fine. We were supposed to be at the game. More on that later. Toronto led this game 16-10 at half. The attendance was 12,584, which should have been 12,586. The game was tied 19-19 in the fourth quarter when Rene Paredes kicked the game-winning field goal, 35 yards for Calgary, as we saw from a hotel bar. Stampeders quarterback Bo Levi Mitchell completed 9 passes for 149 yards, and his backup quarterback Jake Mayer completed 14 passes for 146 yards, which we watched while eating steaks. Neither threw a touchdown for Calgary. Wide receiver Shane Bain caught 4 passes for 129 yards, while we had roasted garlic potatoes.
Sean Bain.
Whatever. For Toronto, quarterback McLeod Bethel Thompson completed 24 passes for 276 yards, but no touchdowns, but there were plenty of vegetables on the sides of our plates, too. Calgary kicker Rene Paredes had 3 field goals during the game, while Toronto kicker Boris Beatty kicked 4 in the game, and I had a Moscow Mule to drink to wash this all down. There, you happy? I read the highlights.
You do the standings?
Fine. Standings. Toronto leads the East with a 4-5 record, followed by Montreal moving up to 4-6. Hamilton falls to 3-7, and Ottawa sits at 1-8.
Nobody with a winning record in that whole East division.
That messy, terrible East.
Oh my gosh.
East, the least division. In the West, the best. Winnipeg at 9-1, followed by British Columbia at 8-1. Their only loss being to that Winnipeg team. The Calgary Stampeders improved to 6-3, while Saskatchewan falls to 500 at 5-5, and the Edmonton Elks inch a little bit closer with a 3-7 record now after that victory. And that's it for the scoreboard. Now let's talk about this crummy old trip we took.
Yeah, we were so excited about this. This was a whole last-minute thing that we put together in
and it was
just a few days.
Doomed from that inception. Little did we know.
Yeah, I got a hotel. I got us tickets to the game. They were all on my phone. We knew exactly where we were going. We figured out how we were going to get into Canada. You have to have an app on your phone. Took care of that. We had everything set up. So we head out Saturday morning. We crossed the border, no problems at all. The lady at the border was very nice. She said all of our information was right there on her screen that we had put online and in our app. So we got right through. We drove all the way to a little town called Oakville, and along the way, I learned something about my car. I learned how to reset the odometer from miles per hour to kilometers because it's all digital, and so I had to go through the menus on the steering wheel, and finally found it where you could change the units from metric to English, whatever. So that was a learning experience. So we arrived in Oakville and checked into our hotel. No problems there. And supposedly, according to my GPS, it was only a 25-minute drive to BMO Field. So we left around 5:30, which is an hour and a half before kickoff. Kickoff was at 7 p.m. that evening. So we drive to Toronto and had no problems. Got very close to the stadium until we turned on to Lakeshore Drive. And then...
2 words I never want to hear again.
And then we ran into the Lakeshore Drive parking lot. We were there for so long. It was incredible. I mean, we were close enough to the stadium that we could smell the poutine, but we could not get to the stadium. The traffic was awful. People were jumping in front of us, trying to get into our lane. We were in the leftmost lane, hoping to make a turn onto Ontario Drive. We never made it there. We sat there forever. When 7 o'clock came and we were still stuck, a few blocks away on Lakeshore Drive and going nowhere, we knew this was going to be a bad situation. So,
now, why was there all that traffic, you might ask? Well, we're going to have to back up Adam's side of the story for just a couple of minutes, because about 5:20, 5 o'clock before we hit the road to go to the stadium, we're watching the news on the local TV in the hotel room, and see, for the first time since COVID, there's going to be something called I think it was the CNE Festival.
Yep, Canadian National Exhibit.
Yes, taking place. I didn't catch where this particular event was taking place. I figured, okay, it's probably somewhere around Toronto, but what are the odds that it's right where we were? Didn't think nothing of it. And sure enough, that explains why traffic in every parking lot where we were trying to get to was backed up.
Because the CNA Festival, which is kind of like, I don't know if you compare it to a county fair or what, but I mean, there were rides and just everybody was there. There was weddings taking place nearby. It was right next to BMO Field. So I think that even if we'd gotten to our parking lot, we probably wouldn't have found a spot to park, because everybody that was going to the festival was probably already in these parking lots. But it was just so frustrating, and people were cutting in front of us. I am shocked that we did not see an accident or be involved in an accident or a fender bender or something, because people were crossing the street in front of cars.
At one point, we had somebody drive past us on the shoulder.
Yes.
Flying. There was no room there, and somehow a car still zipped by us. I have no idea why anybody would let them in after the buffoonery of that action, but it happened. And like you said, the fact that there was not an accident, nay a scratch on any vehicle we saw at least is incredible. And this, I thought Canadians were polite, and clearly they were polite enough to be like, I'll let you into this lane, even though you look like you're about to hit my car. Oh, you need to make a U-turn from 3 lanes over into the opposite direction? I don't understand.
Cutting through a couple of lanes to make a U-turn.
This is the craziest traffic I'd ever been a part of. So this was just frustrating. We were almost at each other's throats. You kept your calm pretty well. I was livid.
Oh, I was trying to do my best.
You were seething, but you didn't let that out.
No.
Like I did. No. And then we got yelled at by a cop, which was fun.
Yeah, well, see, people were cutting in front of other cars. I let a few people in front of me, but I didn't realize that farther down towards the corner where we were trying to get to, people were going up there and cutting in front of other cars. So when I tried to do that, I got yelled at by a cop. The only cop we'd seen all day. And all of a sudden, as soon as I try to cut in front of another car, there's a cop yelling at me, and he comes over to the car, and he threatens me with a ticket if I didn't move out of that lane because I was blocking traffic.
Well, at this point, you had gotten into that right lane. A guy had let us in finally.
Right.
But even after we got out of the lane that we were blocking, for a minute or two, then he came and told us to get out of that lane, which I thought was even more dangerous, but whatever.
Yeah.
We weren't about to get into an argument with a cop.
No.
Whatever. It wasn't worth it.
So we went past where we were supposed to turn in, and according to the GPS, there was another road that we could turn onto a little farther down and head back towards the parking lot.
For the record, I saw this already as a no-win situation, but the man sitting across from me, he didn't double down. He quadrupled down on let's go and see where this road goes. How'd that work out, Randy?
We got up there, and there was another cop, the second cop we had seen all day, and he's there with a bunch of other people, and they have the road coned off where you couldn't get through. And we're right when we were up to the corner, like the next car to turn, they let somebody go through, And so I tried to follow that car, and they told me I couldn't go. And you rolled down the window and said, what's the deal? We're trying to get to a parking lot for the game. And they said the parking lot's full because of a wedding that's going on. So they had the whole street blocked off. So we couldn't even go to our alternate route. And that's when I said, that's it. I've had enough. And we got back on the highway.
Had to go in the opposite
Had to go
direction.
in the wrong direction. Went into town. Went into the downtown area to try and turn around.
Which was just as bad.
That was just as bad. And finally, we did get back on the highway and headed back to our hotel. Got back to our hotel, and we said we need to do something. So we each had a steak dinner in the hotel bar. Pretty good steak dinner.
It was a good steak dinner.
And we watched the end of the game on a TV.
Yeah, luckily the bartender was really chill. Like it was just him and us for a second there till a bunch of other people came in. But he was cool. He's like, well, I just had the Argonauts game on, but I'll turn it back on.
Yep, he
turned the game on for
us,
had the sound going, gave us a couple of steaks, which were great.
Yep.
I had a Moscow Mule, like I said. I needed a drink to just kind of loosen up a little bit. And you had
I had a
Coke,
a double Pepsi.
Oh, yeah, a double Pepsi on the rocks.
We, for the record, we have been to Toronto many times.
I loved Toronto.
We
prior to
love
this
Toronto. Well, we love going to CFL games. We'd been to the Sky Dome and then later the Rogers Center. Same place, different name. Many times, never had any problems until this year. We really wanted to see BMO Field, and we could not make it. And so I realize now that the best way to get there is through public transportation, which we've never had to take public transportation before, but that's the big deal now. It's Canada. Okay, I get it. So now I have a year to figure out how we get from our hotel in Oakville, if we stay there again. And I think there is a GO train station not too far from there where we can get on the GO train, take it to Toronto, and get off at Exhibition the exhibition stop, which is right next to the stadium.
If we would have known prior to this, we could have gotten an Uber. Could have had the Uber literally drop us off on the street.
Yeah.
It might have been a nightmare getting an Uber home, but probably could have still been doable, especially with that, having not even known about that festival. But now it's something we're going to have to keep in our back pocket. If we find out, oh crap, there could be a thing there, let's just take an Uber just to be safe. So.
And when we got on the highway, to leave town, we drove by BMO Field, and then we had to turn around and come back. So we drove by BMO Field twice, and you told me to keep my eyes on the road because I was trying to watch and see what was going on the field.
I almost thought you would look over at the stadium like the Native American from that trash commercial with the single tear going down your face.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that's
Iron
what
Eyes
was about
Cody.
to happen, but I was like, please pay attention to the road, not the bright stadium over there. Because by then it was sun. Like we were there from about before sunset. And it was dark by the time we were trying to get back to the hotel.
We got back to we left the hotel about 5:30, and I think we got back to the hotel around 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
So that was 3.5 hours of just pure hell.
The worst trip we've ever had. And there you go. I don't know if that was amusing to anybody else, other than Randy having our pain documented on the audio and video format.
Well, I'm calling this Randy and Adam's Not So Excellent Adventure.
Ooh, I like that.
And this was so unusual. Like I said, we've been to Toronto many times. We love Canada. We love Toronto. We love the CFL. But, boy, this really soured us on the whole experience of trying to get to a game when the CNE Festival was going on, which we had no idea what was going on. Being from out of town, we don't know all the public transportation things.
But you would think traveling somewhere we would have done our research going to a game. But
I am going to accept part of the responsibility for this. Yes, I'll admit, that I will accept part of the responsibility of this whole fiasco.
I got on you a little bit for that, but it wasn't your fault. I think this was doomed from the beginning. Yeah. We had no idea. How many times have we done these kind of trips with no problem like this?
We've been to Hamilton many times, and we've been to Toronto many times. Never had any problems driving up or near the stadium, parking somewhere, finding parking, walking to the game, and getting out of there afterwards. Yeah. Never had any problems. Man, this was just awful. So yeah. That's the story of our trip to Canada. We tried to get to a game, we didn't make it.
Randy and
maybe
Adams,
next year.
Would you say Randy and Adams?
Not so excellent
adventure. I love the name. Hate the experience.
We drove back the next morning. You wanted to drive home that night.
I was so mad. I wouldn't be the first time I've done something like that where something just didn't pan out. I just didn't feel comfortable staying somewhere, and I'm just like, screw it. Like
I have done that before, and it was from a game in Toronto. We actually it wasn't you, but your two brothers I took with me, and we did drive home after that game. A 6-hour drive after a game that ended at 10 o'clock at night. I was a lot younger back then, but I said, man, we've already, we're losing the money on the tickets. We're not going to get that back. And we've already paid for the hotel and checked in. Let's just go get some sleep, and we'll get up the next morning. We had breakfast in the hotel, and then we hit the road. We were home by 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So it was very, very exasperating. We were so glad to get home, and
that's what happened when you decided to just do a day trip. If we would have gone the night before, we probably could have figured something out.
Well, I was the idea was to go on a Saturday, see the game Saturday night, and come home on Sunday.
I know.
It would have been perfect. But had this festival not been going on, I think we would have been fine. Probably. We would have been able to find the traffic would have been a lot less. We could have found a parking spot. We were going to be there, an hour before the game, so I figured that would be enough time. But boy, was I wrong. Anyway, that's our story, and we're sticking to it. All right, let's move on to some NFL news now. Deshaun Watson has agreed to an 11-game suspension with a $5 million fine. Again, I still say the suspension isn't enough. The fine is a pittance of what he got in a signing bonus.
That's like somebody. I saw somebody with a crazy stat where it was like, of that 200 and whatever million guaranteed he had, of that, it's like, if you made like $50,000 a year and only being fined like $1,000, like that's it. That's the level of this fine. Like something crazy like that. Like nothing. So I don't know. I'm glad that it was an extended suspension, but I hate the fact that now he does get to come back against the Houston Texans.
Yeah, but
that's a big story.
That's his first week back. I don't think they're going to throw him into the starting job.
They're gonna
that first week.
Why
I don't
not?
think so.
It's all the headlines. It's what everybody's going to talk about. He's going to play.
Well,
he may or may not start, but he will play.
You don't think the Texans are going to really go after him in that game?
Of course they will. But it's just crazy but it's done. It's finally done. It was agreed upon.
No more appeals.
The main thing is it's not going to be appealed. It was agreed upon by the league and the Players Association, so it's done. This headache is done and over. And now we just got to focus on the crappy Browns fans littering social media with these crappy T-shirts that they were selling at the game. That guy, screw that guy, and screw the dude with his son who made his son hold that sign up.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen these pictures, you can find it on the internet. The dude took his own Twitter account down once people figure out who he was. That's the one great thing about Twitter. Sometimes they will find you. Twitter has found people. It's crazy how fast they find somebody like that. But to do that to your kid, come on now. But you've never done that. I mean, other than making me a Lions fan, you would never do that to me.
I did apologize to you once.
You did.
Very sincerely.
I think I still have that email somewhere.
Let's see. Let's move on to some other news here. Baker Mayfield has been announced as the starting quarterback for the Carolina Panthers on opening day versus his old team, the Cleveland Browns.
Oh, so the Cleveland Browns again in the news. Yeah. I'm excited. This is one thing I am kind of excited to see Baker. I would love to see Baker. Yeah. Like, I'm not going to root for the Panthers all year, but I would love to see Baker just go in and tear the Browns up. I used to be sympathetic with the Browns. I always used to see the Browns as like the sister losers to the Detroit Lions. I was like, we are losers in arms, us and Browns fans. And now I've lost a lot of respect for the Browns organization. One, for grabbing Deshaun Watson amidst all these allegations. They didn't even wait for things to kind of clear and settle or whatever. And then number two, the Browns fans were backing this guy unabashedly. Like, I'm sorry. I just can't.
And the guaranteed contract. The whole thing being guaranteed. That's the whole thing. Never happened
just
before.
The whole situation. But the fact that these Brown fans are like, free Deshaun. Like, really, guys? Like, I wonder if you thought that when he wasn't part of your team, but now he's part of your team. It's like, oh, well, we want our quarterback that we signed. So you know what? Cleveland is now... They are as bad to me now, and I will hate them as much as I hate the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh, boy.
They have now...
There's a lot of hate going on there.
There's a lot of hate. And like I said, the Browns would have probably been, if the Lions didn't exist, I'd probably be a Browns fan. I don't know if it's my loser Lion mentality just kind of shifting over to another loser franchise, but I kind of saw that in the Browns too. I was like, okay, we have these similar traits. We're the two great historic franchises that have fallen on hard times in recent years that everybody would love to see kind of rise from the ashes and maybe be good again and actually not be the laughing stock of the league.
Yeah.
But you know what? Cleveland, you can continue being the laughing stock of the league. You are now replaced with the Jacksonville Jaguars now that they've gotten rid of Urban Meyer. So, way to go.
I like the history of the Packers, but I hate the team.
Yes.
And I love the history of the Browns They have a great history, a lot of great players.
Until the last year.
But right now, I am not a fan of the Browns, and I can't support them now.
It's really tough
during this time.
until they get rid of it. It's like with the Jags. Once you got rid of Urban Meyer, I'm back on board for you know what? I think I can root for the Jags again from being a bad franchise to maybe they'll do something.
Yeah.
So here's hoping.
Yeah. All right, in some more NFL news, Amazon and DirecTV have reached an agreement to show Thursday Night Football games in bars and restaurants. And we talked about this last week, with Amazon getting the streaming rights to Thursday Night Football. How is this going to affect, bars and restaurants that would show the game? It's awfully hard for a bar to have a streaming service set up to show.
Just to show one game,
right.
What are you going to do? Watch the Lord of the Rings series the other days of the week? How's that going to work?
So the streaming service Amazon now owns the Thursday Night Football game, and they're going to produce the broadcasts, but DirecTV will now be allowed to distribute the games to their customers. So
good deal.
That's a good deal for everybody.
Good deal for everybody.
Yeah, DirecTV doesn't own this anymore, or they're not part of it. It was probably part of the NFL package, which they're not going to have after this year anyway. But at least any bar or restaurant that has DirecTV will now be able to have those Thursday night games and can bring the customers in. So it's kind of a win-win for everybody. So I was happy to see that. Yep. I do have a little bit of USFL news that just came out a little while just before you got home. Fox has reached a settlement with some of the original USFL owners and can continue to use the names and logos of the original USFL franchises. There was all this talk just before the season started that there was a lawsuit. Yeah, a lawsuit going on, and they didn't know if they were going to, pull the names of the teams and the logos at the last minute. And then a judge stepped in and said, well, you can use them until we figure out, some sort of settlement or see what's going on here. And now that the season's over with by a few weeks, now they finally come to an agreement, and a trademark lawsuit was filed just before the start of the season, and now they finally, come to an agreement. So I guess everybody's happy, and they will continue to use the names and logos next year. And there was talk they might add a few more teams next year. So
maybe not next year. I think the year after they definitely were looking at expanding. So we'll see.
But yeah, they can definitely use the names and logos now. So I guess that's good. All right, a couple of college football news items that you brought these to my attention, both of these.
Well, I'm surprised one of them made the topics. One of them was just for your amusement. But the other one, this first story, though, it seemed fun.
The Hooters restaurant makes an NIL agreement with offensive linemen from 10 major colleges. I don't know what they're going to have them doing. Whether they're going to be doing.
I saw this. I was like,
wings
really?
Eating contests at Hooters or something.
Maybe or you just do commercials in those local markets with that offensive line just pounding some chicken wings on camera with the Hooters girls.
Yeah.
Shoot, that could be a fun time. But yeah, but when you look at what schools they did this for, it's very regionalized,
right? Because Hooters is headquarters, I think, down in Florida.
Yeah,
so
which makes sense.
Yeah, the 10 schools are Miami, Auburn, South Florida, Georgia Tech, Oklahoma, Missouri, Vanderbilt, LSU, Texas A&M, and Florida Atlantic. But
hey, great for them. It's I don't know if they had to approach all these schools hey, we just want to pay some offensive linemen,
right?
To be some spokespeople,
who never get any attention. It's always your quarterbacks, your receivers, your big defensive backs.
My thing is, why just the offensive line? Why not some defensive linemen? Come on, you telling me that those big boys don't deserve a little love too? Come on.
I don't know, but it was specifically, it said offensive lineman. So
I'm waiting for my kicker NIL deals. I want to see. Come on, so many great dealerships saying we're gonna kick off the summer or kick off the season with and you get your kicker mascot. Or kicker. What do they call him? Sponsoree? What's the word I'm looking for?
I'm
spokesperson.
Not sure.
There we go.
Yeah, spokesperson. Okay. This isn't on the rundown, but I wanted to add this. A little while ago, I saw that the University of Michigan players are going to be setting up an NIL club, just like Michigan State.
Oh, and we talked fans from Michigan.
We talked about this a few weeks ago. I hated it so bad for Michigan State, and now Michigan is going to be doing basically the same thing.
You're telling me you don't want to pay a premium price every month to watch your favorite Michigan players do stupid stuff?
It was only $5 a month for this one.
And
I forget what the other one was.
I think Michigan State's was $200.
Yeah, a couple hundred a month. So this is $5 a month, and you can get exclusive access to all this online content from the players or whatever. So I mean, cost-wise, it's much better, but the whole thing of whoring themselves out to people online and crazy fans and this and that, I don't agree with that at all. But I just wanted to bring that up to you because I did see that just before you got home also.
Speaking of, you can get the World of Football OnlyFans account for $5 a month, where we will do exclusive audio commentary for football movies, where we will also watch other football leagues that we could normally care less about for your amusement. And live reactions.
Yeah, you know how much money we'd make on this? Probably $5. That's it.
And you know what we do with that $5? Probably put it in a jar and just save it.
Yeah.
For a few months till we got $20.
Yeah. All right, and the last news item is the Air Force Academy is going to be featuring a special uniform this season. I don't know how many times they're going to use it. It's not going to be there.
I think, yeah.
It's like maybe a one-time or two-time.
One of the military games they're
doing. Could be. But it is inspired by the uniform of the U.S. Space Command, which is...
No, Space Force. Get it right. It is Space Force.
Space Force.
If you're going to say it right.
But, the Space Force has their own uniforms, kind of like the Air Force. And they're blue like the Air Force, but they're a darker blue. Yeah. And so they're kind of using that color and some of the logos and whatever. And Air Force has done some really cool stuff in the past. They've had some really special helmets from different Air Force squadrons.
But I like the idea, but the uniform is awful.
Well,
I'm not a fan of this.
All they showed was like a uniform laying on a table or something.
True.
I want to see it on a person and
in action.
Yeah, I'll have to see it in action.
We'll see.
And if it's just one time, what the heck? But when I was down in Florida a few weeks ago, a few months ago with your mom, I did actually buy a U.S. Space Force hat that I found down there. So I have one. It's around here somewhere. I haven't worn it yet. It was going to be my lawn mowing
hat. The Space Force just needs their own academy so they can get the 4th military school out there to compete.
There you go.
Add them to the
Commander-in-Chief trophy.
Add them to the Commander-in-Chief trophy. There you go. What would the Space Force mascot be? They can't be an eagle. Ooh, would they be like a meteorite or
a little green man
or an alien of some kind? A predator?
I don't know. I don't know if they actually have them.
The Space Force Xenomorphs. There we go. Could you imagine the alien Xenomorph on the side of that helmet?
No.
Oh, what a great mascot that would be, terrifying away fans coming to your stadium. Oh my gosh, it'd be fantastic.
Okay, that's enough of that. All right,
Let a boy dream.
That's it for the college news.
Your dream crusher.
Eli's Places Season 2 Episode 2 dropped last Wednesday, and on ESPN Plus, and there's another one coming out tomorrow. This was kind of interesting because he visited Notre Dame and he talked with quarterback Brady Quinn, who went to college there. And they were at the stadium or outside the stadium. They were inside and outside the stadium. But then about halfway through the show, they decided to go to Knute Rockne's old house. And for that part, Peyton actually showed up. And so Peyton was there, and the story goes that when Rockne was living in this house in South Bend, sometimes the players would come by his house, and he would try out different plays or different formations with the players in the side yard at this house. So I don't know who lives there now, but you didn't see the owners that are living there at the current time. But they were in the house for a little while, and they were talking to Notre Dame head coach Marcus Freeman. And they were all in the house looking at some memorabilia of Knute Rockne. And then they went out to the side yard, and they had a bunch of players come over, and they actually tried one of Knute Rockne's old plays, and that was kind of fun. So this was a pretty good episode. And now I want to go drive past Knute Rockne's house now that I know where it is in South Bend. And I don't know if I'll get out and take my picture by it, but at least I can say, hey, I've been by his house. Now I know where he lived in relationship to the university.
Don't block traffic. A cop might yell at you.
Oh yeah, tell me about it. Arena Football TV on YouTube. They posted a few games this week, but the one I'm going to highlight is a 2005 game between the Austin Wranglers and the Georgia Force. Georgia Force was always a good team. The Austin Wranglers weren't around for very long, but
they had a couple of good seasons.
Yeah, they had the Oklahoma Wranglers, and then they had the Austin Wranglers.
But I remember the Austin Wranglers having a couple of decent years for a while there, but. Yeah.
But anyway, that's the game that they posted. And what I loved, the minute that I started watching the video, you hear the voice of Eli Gold from the press box previewing the game. And, oh, gosh, he was so good. I really miss him. He's still out there. He does Alabama games. But he was so good at arena football. And he just, for so many years, he was the voice of arena football for me. And so,
always will be.
So check that game out, a 2005 game between the Austin Wranglers and the Georgia Force. All right, a couple of birthdays to talk about today, August 23rd. The birthday of quarterback Sonny Jurgensen, who turns 88 years old today. He played his college football at Duke, which I never knew until I was looking this up. He was selected in the 4th round of the 1957 NFL Draft by the Philadelphia Eagles. He played 18 NFL seasons. He was with the Eagles from 57 to 63, and then he was with the Washington Redskins from 1964 to 1974, and he won an NFL title with Philly in 1960. The Washington Commanders are going to retire Jurgensen's number 9 during halftime of their Week 18 game against the Dallas Cowboys this season. That just came out today also. That was an announcement, and I posted that on our Twitter feed. And he was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 1983. And the other birthday that I want to mention today is that of defensive tackle Cortez Kennedy. Born on this date in 1968, he passed away in 2017 at the age of just 48. He played his college football at the University of Miami and was the third...
Whoa, wow. Boy.
I'm reading way too much. Why don't you read that one?
I don't normally do the birthdays, but he played for the University of Miami and was the 3rd overall pick in the 1990 NFL Draft by the Seattle Seahawks. He played only 11 NFL seasons. Only 11 NFL seasons. That's a lot. All of them being with Seattle from 1990 to 2000, and was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2012.
Ooh, I think I feel better after taking a drink.
See, you structure this so you just put all this workload onto yourself. You need to start breaking it up a little bit so that you can, insert water break here.
Well,
pass it on to Adam here.
Anytime you get monologuing, I usually do take a break because I know
would make
it's
a
gonna
great
be a while.
supervillain because all you do is monologue. All right, now we're going to move on now to the obituaries. This is where we take a moment to honor those who have made the world of football a better place, and we're going to start things off with the obituary of Riddick Parker, a defensive tackle in the NFL for 7 seasons, has passed away at the age of 49. Parker played college football at North Carolina. He began his pro career with the Rhine Fire of the World League of American Football in 1996. He then played for the Seattle Seahawks from 1997 to 2000. Parker also played for the New England Patriots in 2001 and won a Super Bowl that year. He finished his playing career with the Baltimore Ravens in 2002 and 2003. At the time of his passing, Parker was the principal at George Wythe High School in Richmond, Virginia.
I think I'm good enough to read the next obituary.
All right, it's a short one. It's a short paragraph, so try to get through it.
Our next obituary is that of Charlie Frazier, who played wide receiver in the AFL, NFL, and WFL for 10 seasons, has passed away at the age of 83. Frazier attended HBCU Texas Southern University and was on the track and field team but did not play college football. He signed as a free agent with the Houston Oilers of the American Football League in 1962. He played in Houston through 1968 and was also played for the Boston Patriots in 1969 and 1970. He finished his playing career with the Houston Texans of the World Football League in 1974.
All right, and our final obituary this week is that of Gary Gaines, the high school football coach from the book and movie Friday Night Lights, has passed away at the age of 73. Gaines spent 3 decades coaching at the high school and college levels in the state of Texas. He was the head coach at Odessa Permian from 1986 to 1989. Gaines went 47-6-1 during that stretch and led the team to a perfect season that ended with a state title in 1989. The 1988 season was the subject of Buzz Bisinger's 1990 best-selling book, Friday Night Lights, which was eventually made into a movie in 2004 and then a television series on NBC. He was portrayed by Billy Bob Thornton in the 2004 movie. Gaines also spent time as an assistant coach at Texas Tech and as a head coach at Abilene Christian.
Abilene Christian, yes.
Yep. He returned to lead Permian one last time in 2009.
Now, I've seen the movie. I have the book on the shelf. I've skimmed through the book. I admit I haven't read it cover to cover, but I did see the movie with Billy Bob Thornton. But I never got into the TV series. I've never seen any of it. I don't know if I checked out the first episode and maybe didn't like it or something. But it's been on for quite a while. I think It just finished its run last year, maybe. But I never saw that series. But the movie was pretty interesting. I think in the movie they took some liberties because they showed him, I think, winning the state championship that year. But the book, they were, I think they lost in the state finals that year that the book was written, but they did win it the following year. So interesting that just came out again just a few hours a day. Everything comes out on Tuesdays.
We say it every week.
Just before we're ready to record.
Might as well be the tagline. Everything happens on Tuesdays, including this podcast.
Yeah, really. Okay. Anything else before we need to do our history lesson today?
Well, there's been a lot of players getting put on, the physically unable to perform list. A lot of injuries, during the preseason as teams are making the roster cuts. Yep. So they're moving guys to the injured list and stuff. So a lot of those going on. Obviously, like Chase Young getting moved is probably one of the bigger names. A few other guys here and there. But other than that, you should be good. And I don't know if you want to preface the big change we had to make to the history lesson this week.
No, I was just going to do it.
Oh, okay. Well, I was going to say...
We're doing something a little bit different this week.
Yeah, we're going to try something different, or you are.
Normally, I pre-record everything, but I wanted to include Adam in the history lesson. So this week, we're going to talk about 5 player nicknames that are some of the greatest in football history. And the first one that we're going to talk about is Dick Night Train Lane, who was a defensive end and a defensive back in the NFL. He's most famous for playing for the Detroit Lions. I think that's where everybody knows him from. But he actually started out as a rookie with the Los Angeles Rams and then went on to play for the Chicago Cardinals before he came to Detroit. Now, the story behind his nickname is that Night Train was the name of a song. A couple people did the song, but it's an instrumental. I think the most famous one is Buddy Morrow is the one that had a big hit with it. Like I said, a couple different people did it. And if you ever watched the movie Back to the Future, at the Under the Sea dance, they're playing this song Night Train when Marty McFly's father is kind of dancing by himself before Marty shows up. That's the song that's playing is Night Train.
Right, but it's not really an instrumental, is it?
It is.
Is it?
Yes.
I thought it had lyrics and stuff.
No, it's just an instrumental song. But quarterback Tom Fears of the Rams at the time when Night Train was a rookie had that song, and he was always playing it on a record player. And about the time that he'd put the song on, Dick Lane would come to his room, knocking on the door, asking for help on some of the plays in the playbook. Asking his quarterback for help. And so every night, as soon as the song was going, the knock would come at the door, and there'd be Dick Lane. And so he got the nickname Night Train because of that. And he didn't really like the nickname at first, but he warmed up to it over the years.
And it's a great nickname.
It is.
I mean, having obviously never growing up in that era he played in, if you were a football history, like even novice, like looking at history stuff, you find Night Train. Dick Night Train Lane will pop up.
Yep.
And that's why I was happy when you started doing these is you're going to hear some names that maybe you're familiar with, maybe you're not, but they're great nicknames.
Yeah.
And you don't get a lot of them nowadays. So.
Right, yeah. Modern ones aren't as good as the older ones, but there are a few modern ones that are okay. But another one I wanted to mention this week is Lance Allworth. He was a wide receiver. And again, his nickname was Bambi. And it was because I think one of the coaches said he ran like a deer. And so he got the nickname of Bambi. And he was most famous for playing with the San Diego Chargers, but people don't realize that he finished his career with the Dallas Cowboys. And, Lance Allworth, you can't, it's not Lance Bambi Allworth, but it's Lance Allworth, and everybody knows him as Bambi. When you say Bambi, everybody knows Lance Allworth. Great wide receiver.
See, I've always heard the name Lance Allworth, but I can't say as I've ever heard them call him Bambi. So that's a new one to me when you pulled that one out.
Okay.
So that's a new one.
Okay. Well, here's another one. This guy was a center. He was a tackle. He was a defensive tackle, but he was also a kicker. And his name is Lou the Toe Groza.
Now that's a great nickname.
That is a great nickname. He spent 21 years playing professional football. He was with the AAFC.
You better play for 21 seasons with a nickname like the Toe. I'm just saying.
But all of his time was with the Cleveland Browns. The first 4 years were with the AAFC team, and then they joined the NFL, and he was with them the rest of the time there. But when Paul Brown was putting the Cleveland Browns together for that very first season, he knew that he wanted Lou Groza on his team. And at the time, Paul Brown was coaching at the Great Lakes training station in Chicago, And Lou Groza was serving in the Philippines in the military, and he contacted him, made him a contract offer. When you get out, we're have this team in Cleveland, and he asked him if he wanted to join. He did, so he sent him a contract, and he also sent him a football to the Philippines so that he could practice his kicking. That's how you get the nickname Lou the Toe Groza.
Yeah, and he's got an award named after him now.
Yes, and in fact, the winner of the Lou Groza Award last year was none other than Michigan kicker Jake Moody.
Oh.
So a local guy does good with the Lou Groza Award.
Somebody, don't you know his dad, not to name drop anybody?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. All right, the next one is William the Refrigerator Perry.
Okay, yeah, this is another one, though. If you're even a slight football fan, you should know the name, the Refrigerator.
Do you remember seeing him play, or was he before your time?
He was before my time, but man, I've seen those highlights of him running for the touchdown in Super Bowl 20 against the Patriots. So I've seen that, and what a big dude. You could see why he was called the Refrigerator.
And it was so unusual to see him running the ball. I mean, that's something Ditka kind of threw in there. But he was such a force on the defensive line anyway. Before they ever gave him the ball, he was making a name for himself as a great defensive lineman. And a lot of people may not know this, but he played for the Chicago Bears. But then he retired, and a few years later, he came out of retirement to play for the World League of American Football's team in London, the London Monarchs. And I think he played most of the season. He was pretty banged up at that time, so I don't think he made it through the entire season. And it was more of a publicity stunt than anything.
Yeah.
So he was there to sign autographs and bring people to the games to watch him play. But yeah, he did play part of one season in London with the World League of American Football. Okay, the last one we're going to talk about today is Rod Smart.
Oh, come on, everybody. You might hear this at first, everybody. For you audio listeners, you should know who Rod Smart is before we say the nickname. I mean, it's one of those names, like, if you know,
well,
you know.
You know the nickname, you might not know that it was Rod Smart.
But you might, there are some who just know the nickname and don't know his name. So you hear, like, who was Rod Smart again? Well, go ahead.
His nickname was He Hate Me.
Oh, the nickname that changed the XFL that year.
The 2001 XFL
took that by storm.
Yep, he had the name He Hate Me on the back of his jersey.
Why is your nickname He Hate Me? Because he hate me and she hate me.
Yeah,
and
I'm so good and he hate me because I'm so good.
One of the greatest player interviews too, and one of the greatest nicknames you're ever going to see.
A lot of players in the XFL that back in 2001 had nicknames.
That was a big gimmick for them, was putting the nicknames on the back, which was.
I remember Big Daddy was one.
Big Daddy was,
and there were several. I can't tell you any of the other ones, but He Hate Me was just took the world by storm.
That was the one. I mean, after that, it was like, well, nobody else even matches this one. Because there were some that were kind of funny. Some of them, I think nowadays you just see people's Twitter handles on the back of their jersey, but it was a crazy time. I do vaguely remember one guy who I think played for the Memphis Maniacs who changed his nickname because it was too, not provocative, but had a couple swear words in it, I think. So I think they asked him to change it, or he changed it because his kids were watching or something. I don't remember, but He Hate Me though.
A classic.
Yeah. It was great. It was memed to death. It was. Yep. I think it was memed before memes were even a thing. It was all over the internet before the internet was what it was.
If you're not familiar with that, just go Google He Hate Me, and you'll come up with a picture of the back of his jersey with the name on it. He played in the 2001 XFL with the Las Vegas Outlaws. The great helmet, a gold helmet with the LV letters on it, and the black jersey with, I think, gold trim or something.
It was a great uniform.
Yep. So, he played there that one season, and people don't know he went on to have a pretty decent NFL career. He played one season up in Canada with the Edmonton Eskimos, and then he also played a few seasons with the Philadelphia Eagles and the Carolina Panthers. So, yeah, he had a decent career outside of that, but he'll always be remembered for the nickname He Hate Me. So that's just 5. We'll have some more in the coming weeks. I've got a list of about 25 or close to 30 that I really like. I'm sure I'm going to miss a few that people will say, well, why didn't you mention this one? That's a good one. And like I said, a lot of the newer nicknames, they're just not that good.
They just don't stick.
These are the classics.
There's a couple of newer ones that kind of stick that I kind of like, and I don't know if you put him on your list. I won't spoil any other ones as I'm scanning through your 20 names you have here.
But let's just recap the ones we got this week.
Yep.
It was Dick Night Train Lane.
Great.
There was Lance Allworth, whose nickname was Bambi. Yeah. There was Lou the Toe Groza.
That's up there.
That's what makes a really good nickname. If they put it in between your first name and your last name, Dick Night Train Lane, Lou the Toe Groza, William the Refrigerator Perry. That is a great one. Rod Smart, He Hate Me, still pretty decent. Lance Allworth, Bambi, classic.
Yeah,
classic.
These are great. I think this is a good way to start things off.
So that's our first 5, and we'll have more in the future.
Yeah.
We're going to do player nicknames, and then we're going to get into some team nicknames, defensive units or offensive units.
Oh, yeah, because there's a lot of great names out there. We all know.
Yep.
So
we're
looking forward to those.
Touching base on a lot of those in the future. All right. So that's our history lesson. Let's see. Where are we now? Upcoming events calendar is where we're at now. Tonight, HBO's Hard Knocks, episode number 3, drops at 10 o'clock tonight.
Yes, sir.
As usual, we won't watch it till you get home from work tomorrow, and we're going to do a video on our reaction to episode 3.
Yep.
So be looking for that. Hopefully,
our reactions
Wednesday night.
Our recaps of episode 1 and 2 are up on the YouTube channel for those out there.
Yep.
So if you're curious on our thoughts, that's where they will be.
Yep. If you haven't seen those, check those 2 out before tomorrow's episode.
Did you see the clip they released today?
I saw a few clips today.
Okay.
In the past, I'd stayed away from trying to watch any clips, but there were so many.
It's so hard now. They have so much footage. They just throw, because some of the stuff they put out doesn't even make it into the episode half the time now. So I'm like, I don't know if this is going to spoil anything or not, but I'm going to watch it.
Right.
And it was the clip of him with the pants.
Yes, I saw that.
I was driving my brother-in-law home today, and he hadn't seen that clip yet, so he's sitting in the seat next to me and just cracking up because of these stinking pants. I was like, all I'm going to tell you is it's Dan Campbell in a pair of pants. That's all I'm going to say.
I'm sure a lot of these things that they do on Hard Knocks are kind of, they try to create things for the show. Let's do this bit because it'll be funny or whatever. But it doesn't seem like it's being...
Dan Campbell, I think, is just being genuine.
It doesn't seem forced.
No.
It doesn't seem like they're really stretching to try and get a laugh or something. It sounds like this is how he feels and how he's trying to get his point across to his players.
I think so, too. I think that's why everybody's falling in love with Dan Campbell. Motor City Dan Campbell.
I think we're going to get some Lions fans around the country because of this show.
I won't go that far, but I think we'll have more fans of other teams going, you know what? I can't hate the Lions. They're trying. Like, especially those, like, maybe we'll get some Cleveland fans to become Detroit fans now.
I don't know.
If
Not
you're
after
out there,
your
let
comments.
us know.
All right. Other events upcoming. Saturday, August 27th. Which
College
is
football's back.
This Saturday.
This Saturday.
That's this Saturday.
It's exciting.
Week 0.
Real legitimate football.
Yep.
Games that matter in college. Oh, it's going to be so exciting.
And like you were saying, in years past, they've come up with this stupid Week 0 thing, and there'd be maybe 3 games, tops.
But now doing 11 games for this week.
And now
I still think Week 0 is a weird concept, but the fact that you got 11 games now, all right, like give me some just great matchups, give me some good teams to start the season. I am ready for it.
Yep. And then Thursday, September 1st, is Week 1 of the college football season. There are 16 games that Thursday, I believe.
It's going to be crazy.
And it goes all weekend long, and then it culminates on Monday night, September 5th, with a Monday night game between number 4 Clemson and Georgia Tech. So a whole weekend of college football. And they'll probably play some games on Sunday because there's no NFL preseason.
It's a holiday weekend, and I can't wait. I'm just going to sit on my butt for 72 hours just watching college football.
Do that every weekend. So
not watching college football, I don't.
And then finally, on our upcoming events, Thursday, September 8th, the NFL regular season begins. The Buffalo Bills travel out to Los Angeles to play the Rams. That, my friend, is only 16 days from today.
Yes, it is, and that's the start of my fantasy league season.
Okay.
So very excited to get that kicked off. We have our own YouTube channel if anybody's interested in that. How do you have a YouTube channel for your fantasy league, you might ask? Well, find the Game of Thrones YouTube channel, and you'll see why.
That's what your league is called, your fantasy league?
Yeah, Game of Thrones. It's Game of Thrones themed. I have to keep watching how I say the last part because Game of Thrones is our fantasy league based on Game of Thrones, the TV series, which also came back this week. We got new Game of Thrones. As you can hear behind me, we got the Game of Thrones theme song playing. Oh, House of the Dragon, baby. You didn't watch the episode.
No,
I did. It was great. Oh, man. Game of Thrones is back and better than ever. Woo! What a time. What a time to be alive.
I would ask you to tell us the name of your fantasy football team, but this is a family show, and we can't say that.
All I'll say is it's based on Jared Goff. Every year, I reassess my team name, but the last couple years now, Well, originally it was Carry On My Wayward Son because I based it on Carry On Johnson. Because it's always got to be based on a Lions player and a player I like on the team. And I liked Carry On, then he left. Now we have Jared Goff. I like Jared Goff. So my team is Goff. And then 3 letters that compose a swear word to add on the end of Goff's name. And then yourself. So I'll let you guys figure that out on your own. That is my main fantasy team name. But my other team in another league I'm in is Campbell's Kneecap Soup, based on Coach Dan Campbell eating a Packer kneecap. So,
yeah. I never wanted to do fantasy football talk on the show. And you tried to get me, a couple of people tried to get me into a fantasy league last year.
It's not your thing.
And it's just not my thing. I don't care for it. But I did come up with a team name for myself. And
the Memphis Snowboats, we know.
The Memphis Snowboats, yes, based on the Memphis Showboats.
I think you did this bit last year.
Well, people won't remember.
Season 6, we got to refresh everybody's memories. The Memphis Snowboats, yeah. Right. Even though you're nowhere near Memphis.
Got my logo.
You don't even own a boat.
Yeah.
So it's a lie. It's a sham.
All right. Anything else before we...
No, I think we are all good. No breaking news as of right now. We can wrap this puppy up to start our 6th year together. I can't believe it. How many clips from this episode are we going to play a year from now? I don't know.
Who knows?
Probably our tragic trip to Toronto.
Yeah. Well, that's all the time we've got for this week. If you learned something during this podcast about the incredible amount of diversity and frustration that there exists in the world of football, then we have done our job. Visit our website at theworldoffootball.com for news, links, upcoming events, videos, and more. Our email address is info@theworldoffootball.com.
Go ahead and like The World of Football on Facebook at TWOF Kalamazoo. You can also follow our Twitter account, which is at TWOF Kalamazoo. New episodes of this very podcast are posted on Tuesdays and are available on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and you can find the full uncut audio version that we post on those platforms on the YouTube channel. You can just find that YouTube channel by searching for The World of Football Kalamazoo. So go there, subscribe, rate, review. We got our Hard Knocks recaps up now. Yep. We're going to try posting more history lessons up there. That's something we're going to try to do for year 6. We're going to try to be a little more consistent. Getting some history lessons up there. You guys seem to really like those. And whatever other videos we feel like putting up there. Pretty soon we're going to have our weekly picks
NFL
segments,
picks, yep.
which, I work very hard on editing. Just so you know. So go over there, guys. Subscribe. Leave us a comment. Hit the like button on all those videos. And please come be a part of the football conversation.
And remember, folks, some people may love football more than we do, which is hard to believe. But nobody, and I mean nobody, loves more football than my son and I. Until next time, I'm Randy Snow.
And I'm still in the process of writing a strongly worded letter to the city of Toronto to tell them my disappointment in my experience there in their city that I once loved, and that I may no longer be a Toronto Argonauts fan and may in fact shift my allegiances exclusively to the Hamilton Tiger Cats.
I wish I'd have got that cop's badge number.
I don't think they do in Canada. I think they just get different colored maple leaves on their patches there.
Whatever. See you all next week.